Hey there, magnificent freaks. How's it going, guys? Tomek here. Back again with one more Lords by Design episode. This time, I wanted to show you some of the basics of the weapon movesets. The goal of this is so that you guys can experiment yourself and know what to look for when deciding what weapon is best for you. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the attribute requirements and scaling for the weapons, and then briefly I will talk about the perks of some of the weapons. Now, I have shown quite significant chunk of the daggers moveset previously, light, heavy, left, right, and so on. But what I forgot to say, and it's quite important, is that these combos that I believe a lot of the rogue weapon users are gonna be using heavily have two varieties, two flavors. There's a fast combo that I was using, and there's also a heavy combo. No, once again, it's like depends on the attack with which you trigger the combo, which means the third consecutive perfectly timed attack. You can do the light one, like this, or you can do a heavy one. So I do 2 light attacks to make it faster, and then I do a heavy to trigger a combo with a heavy. And of course, heavy also has 2 follow-up attacks. One starting and 1 follow-up. There you go. This was a heavy combo. It's even bigger DPS than the light one, but it's slightly longer. So yeah, and you need to switch keys to transfer from light attack to heavy attack. Might be difficult for, might be challenging for some of you guys, but it's also interesting thing to know. Now, the general aspect of weapon movesets, the variety, complexity, and diversity of these is something that you will definitely find worth experimenting with. Every weapon has certain attacks that are imbued in each moveset, like light and heavy, charging, then perfect timing, and so on. I covered this already, and every weapon has that. What I forgot to mention as well is that when you use a perfect timing, the attack that starts with a perfect timing consumes less energy. It is one more use for perfect timing because you can use perfect timing even with weapons that don't have combos, like this one. Oh, I actually didn't trigger it, but let me see if I can do it. No, let me try another weapon. This one maybe. There you go. I was able to do 4 attacks. Normally, I would be able to do 3 attacks with this because it consumes the hell out of my energy. There you go, and my energy is depleted. So also very interesting feature, the perfect timing. Each weapon has an attack that is performed after the roll. It was designed and meant to reach as far as possible. Oh, I wanted to do one more thing. Just give me a sec. There you go. This one has a turning, like a roundhouse attack. This one will also have a roundhouse attack with a spin of the weapon, which means that it might even hit twice, but I'll talk about it in a second. This one will have a thrust, which is very, very long range, and it's a very cool feature of that weapon. This one has, I think, an overhead. Oh, just a sec. Once again. And yeah. It has a rolling overhead, and this one also has a spinning attack, a roundhouse attack. Come on, just a sec. Let me get my energy back, and there we go. There you go. This is like an uppercut, more or less. So it's very interesting to experiment with these because I know a lot of people use rolls to get under enemy's guard rather than to the side or backwards. They use they just roll forwards towards an enemy, and this is cool. Because these attacks were designed for this, to get under the strike or under the guard and then strike. So these are daggers. Now, the staff. The staff is a weapon that was designed to perform multi-hits, and that means even when you're using it with 1 hand or 2 hands, and that means you can quite often stun lock your enemies with this weapon. This second attack of the light sequence, of the fast sequence, has 2 strikes. This one, the second attack as well, has 2 strikes. If you're two-handing that weapon, all of the attacks have only 1 strikes for the light sequence, but they're quite fast. But for the heavy one, I think the second one has at least 2 strikes, if not 3, but I think it's 2. There you go. Also, if you combine it with charging the first attack, that's quite a lot of damage. And now, getting down to the combos, which is a really cool thing. I've shown you, one of the last episodes, I've shown you the combo with, where was it? The hammer. There you go. That you can do this and then light attack, which is quite fast. But if we switch to, there we go. If we switch to the staff, you can do combo. Jumping attack is, I think the jumping attack is different for, yeah, this is the jumping attack with 1 hand, and this is the jumping attack with 2 hands. I think it can hit multiple times, if I'm not mistaken. You might want to verify this. But the cool thing is you can transfer this jumping attack into this second heavy attack. So that means that you're going to get quite a lot of DPS out of that, because you get 2 strikes in here and you get 2 or even 3, I don't remember, maybe 2 strikes in here. And also you can do one very important thing about the movesets with the amount of strikes that you have for each weapon is you can do light, 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 light. You can do light, heavy, and there's like first light animation and the second light animation, the follow-up animation, and the same with heavy. There's first heavy and the second heavy, and then it goes to the first heavy. When you transfer from first light to the heavy, it goes to the second heavy. So that means that this, and there's this spinning attack. So or when you go to the second light and then the heavy is different. So transferring from animation from type of attack to type of attack can have different output depending. I encourage you guys to experiment with that. Also, rolling attack of this one is really cool. Also the spinning one, it's got a long range. This is the way it was designed for, so to reach as far as possible. I mentioned jumping attack. All right, let's move on now. The greatsword has relatively slow attacks. These are fast attacks, the one-hand fast attacks. But these deal way bigger damage, of course, and the heavy attacks is quite long, so you can charge it. As you can see, almost all of my stamina, all of my energy. And the follow-up of the heavy attack is something I particularly like. It's an overhead slam, which not only can knock enemies down, but when you combine it with a jump attack, with this attack, it is my personally favorite combo in a game. There you go. It's like you jump, and then you follow it up with an overhead slam. Most of the enemies are, well, at least knocked down, if not dead by then. If you got a really decent greatsword and you craft it with decent runes later on in the game, this combo will be lethal for most of the regular enemies in the game. Now, next we've got this one. This weapon was designed to not only hit hard, but also the two-handed, well, light attacks look like this. They're relatively slow, but not very slow. Of course, the heavy strike is way slower than this. See the long swing that he takes before he actually hits. But there is what we call a spin to win, which means that if you follow it up, you can do, and as long as you have the energy for this, you can do it. Let's see if we can do 4 with perfect timing. No, I didn't hit it. I don't know what the exact window is. To look for the window of the perfect timing, you should experiment yourself. It's always somewhere around the end of the animation where it nicely blends into another animation. This is the way that we were designing this. And also very cool jumping attack. The roll attack is similar to that, as you can see. No, once again. No. And there we go. I don't think you can combo out of a jumping attack. No, it's not easy. actually, but it's a powerful weapon. And then there's a hammer, which I just wanted to show the really cool uppercut roll attack. And so these are, I mean, and there's way more weapons in this game. Like, for example, the fist weapons, which are the faster version, which is a different moveset than daggers, but it's a faster weapon than daggers. The faster weapons in the game at all. If you dual wield that, actually the left-handed attack, this is the right-handed. The right-handed attack is different than the left-handed attack. The left-handed attack is faster. And if you want to carry out the combo with fist weapons, and it takes some practice to learn it because these attacks are really fast. It's like a stab, like a jab with a fist weapon. So doing that, and then starting a combo, it's like you don't even need a second to start comboing with these weapons, but you really need to learn the timing for these fast left-handed attacks. Right. Now, what I wanted to show you is the attribute scaling and calculation of damage. If we go into weapons, there is, first, let me describe everything that you have on a weapon card. The first, of course, there is, no, wait, I'll go into some, oh, there we go. So the first thing on the card is the name, of course. Then there's a type of the weapon, which is also representative of the moveset of the weapon. If you look at the card of the weapon, the visual part of this screen, you will notice that each weapon has a small icon on top of it. Like daggers have a dual icon of 2 daggers. A staff has just a staff icon. This represents the moveset of the weapon. Main hand is just main hand, but the damage is the nominal damage that it deals when you have the exact amount of attribute that the requirement needs. Power, if I'm not mistaken, I might be, but if I'm not mistaken, it's the attack power. So it's the ability to break through enemies' poise, enemies' guard, and so on. And it means that this dagger, the Marger dagger, or actually, let's go into the staff. It's gonna be easier to explain because you have 2 of these at the screen, so you're not mistaken at which one I'm looking at. It's got a nominal, so it's got the amount of attack power that usually staffs will have. Some of these might have less, some of these might have more, and that will be represented here by either above or below 100%. Same for energy. There is a nominal amount of energy consumption for weapons like staffs or staves, and this monk staff consumes 10% more than the nominal amount of energy consumption for staff. So you can see it at the line energy 110%. Weight is just weight. Then when there's a perk, when a weapon has a perk, I think these daggers might have had a perk. Let me just see it quick. Whoa. There we go. Yeah. And it says in here, just next to the bottom of the graphical representation, consumes less energy when dual wielded. This is only for the weapon that actually have a perk. Then there's a description of the weapon. Agility requirement not only says the amount of agility you need to deal at least nominal amount of damage, but also it gives you the info which attribute scales the damage of this weapon. Then there's the amount of scaling. Agility scale next is 4%, and the way that it works is 8 is the minimal attribute for any weapon. Even if the requirement of the weapon is higher, the calculation of the scaling with attribute is started from 8. So let's see in case of this weapon, the Marauder Great Axe. I don't have 11 strength. So I nominally, if I had 11 strength, it would deal around 13 damage. It of course depends on the defenses and resistances of the enemies, but right now, because I think I'm 3 points short. This character has a starting amount of strength 8, so I'm 3 points short, and that means minus 20. It doesn't mean that it deals negative damage. It's different. I don't know precisely, but it means that it's decreased. And the way that it works is when you're below when you're below the requirement of the attribute for the weapon that you're wielding, the damage is linearly scaled down with each point that you're short. When you are above, it is calculated starting from 8, the amount of percentage for each point that you're above 8. So, for example, if I have 11 strength, this weapon deals nominal damage, which means 13, but it also scales for the difference between strength of 8 and strength of 11. 6% of this nominal 13 damage for each of these points. So it would mean probably 3 times 6% of 13. I would just guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. You might want to do the math yourself, but I'm just recalling that from what I remember, the way that we've designed it. Then there's very interesting things. Attack speed. It is similar to power and energy that I described. There's something like a nominal attack speed for each of the moveset. This Marauder Great Axe has a nominal speed, but if we go to persistence, for example, this sword has 4% faster animation speed than the regular greatsword animation. It says attack speed 104% in here. Critical damage is also something that is nominal for generally for a type of a weapon. This one has 90% of nominal damage for critical strikes for greatswords, but the rogue weapons, for example, have usually very high critical damage, because these are the weapons where the wielder of this weapon usually bases on or relies on critical damage. So yeah, that's obvious for a lot of guys, but if you're starting Lord's player, that might be significant for you. Also, there is elemental damage. I do not have any elemental weapon with me right now, so there's physical, and then there's split of 4 different elemental types of damage in the game: magic, fire, poison, and lightning. And lightning is very rare. I think there are only 3 lightning weapons in a game at all. Weapons can and usually do deal split damage if they have an elemental damage. So there's a physical part and there's an elemental one. They're not very I don't think there are a lot of weapons that deal more than 2 types of damage. I mean, physical and 1 elemental. I know of one that I think deals 3 types of physical and lightning and magic, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even remember correctly. It's a hammer, and generally, the attribute scaling works for physical damage, and the elemental damage is based on what it is in a weapon, like nominally, but you can increase it via crafting. That's the way to modify the elemental damage of the game, and that's basically it. That's basically how damage calculation works. One last thing, I'll very quickly talk about perks of weapons, but for this I need to switch to my warrior character, so give me guys a sec. Alright, so this is my warrior character. That's what the regular one-handed heavy attack looks like, but this sword has a perk. When you meet the requirements of this sword, it actually changes this attack, the one-handed heavy attack, the first, not the follow-up. So I'm gonna go into the save point, spend the XP that I have, and buy 1 more strength point. Right, and now, once I actually have the points that I need, and once I meet the requirement of the weapon, and I can deal nominal damage plus the one that results from scaling, I can also use the perk, which I couldn't before, because the perks do not work on weapons that you don't meet requirements for. In this case, I can do this tremor, the underground tremor. It's an overhead slam with underground tremor that is sent forwards. So the slam itself deals physical damage, but the magical or fire, maybe it's fire, I don't remember actually, to be honest with you. I would need to check it. I don't even know how. And anyways, the elemental damage that is done via the tremor is sent forwards, and it It can hit enemies from a distance, and it can even be shot through walls, if I'm not mistaken. So, which is very, very cool thing. And the coolest thing about this sword with this perk is when you find a perfect distance, perfect spot, perfect distance between you and enemy, and use this attack, the enemy will be hit by both. It will be hit by the very tip of the sword, which means that he will still get the physical damage from the sword, and also the beginning of the shockwave will hit him as well, which is a very, very high damage. You might want to try that out. It's very effective. Very effective. It kills, for example, I think that it kills Marauder in one strike, if I'm not mistaken. And also, please take notice that using a perk version, using a perk of the weapon, because like regular strikes do not use a perk. The perk is only when I use this strike. Notice that it consumed some of my magical energy once again. There you go. About 1/3 of my bar is consumed every time I use a perk, because perks result from magic. It's magic, right? And you won't be able to use perk if you don't meet requirement, and also if you don't have magical energy, the animation is back to the normal animation, as you can see. I couldn't use a perked animation of one-handed heavy attack. Interesting stuff. There are more perked weapons of the game. Every special weapon from the boss is a perked weapon. Every boss has special conditions under which he drops a special version of the very same loot, almost the same loot. You might call it legendary or whatever we call it. Like in this case, the version of persistence is enriched with this perked attack. Hope I've not mistaken anything. That was the 5th episode of Lords by Design. Thanks a lot, guys. Please let me know. Right now, I might want to, I don't know, but I'll consider switching to like on-demand mode, because we got 5 videos right now. If you need anything else, please let me know in the comments. I will, if I'm going to make next videos, I will focus on things that you guys think are most interesting or most necessary, because there's quite a lot of videos on Lords out there right now, because Lords is not a very new game. So maybe you might want to hear about something that is not covered yet, or if you want to reiterate something that has been told but you think I should give my input on that, please let me know. Anyways, and please remember, I'm doing that for fun. You don't need to like or subscribe my channel. You're cool anyways. If you do, however, thanks, of course. But I hope these videos help anyone and are useful for guys that are picking up Lords. Hey, have a great day, guys, and cheers. See you next time.